Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Ask SCW is back once again answering your questions in the wrestling community. You can get involved and leave a question for a future episode here of Ask SCW. Drop a comment here on YouTube with the hashtag, as I say, Ask SCW, or you can get involved on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. All should be coming up on your screen as we speak of where to share, like and follow. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to get involved with the questions very shortly. But just to let you know, first and foremost, the Fighter Fest AEW predictions are available for you now. Both weeks are currently available in one format video. I will be uploading them as well in singular weeks as well. If you prefer to wait for those to come, they will be dropping in the next 24 hours as well. So, but if you can't wait and you want to see everything, it's all still technically in order, night 1, night 2, but in one long video. Go and check it out, but watch this one first. So without further ado, we're going to start off, and we've got all the questions from Twitter today. We've got Impact Wrestling, WWE, NXT, much more on the way. But let's kick things off with Impact Wrestling. It's been such a big Impact week, and we've got Ty World Order kicking things off for us this week. What a week, you're telling me. Book the Slammiversary main event now, and your reason why your winner should carry the Impact World Championship, a belt that needs a lot of rehabilitation, unfortunately. Very much true indeed. Well, first off, I'm going to tell you how I would book it, and then I'm going to include your answer with the next question, because I've also been asked who's going to walk away the winner as well. I agree first and foremost. Now, we need to give a bit of backstory for people here. Of course, the Impact World Championship is now vacant because Tessa Blanchard was fired this week. She's not been appearing for Impact tapings for a while now since the pandemic. She's been in Mexico with her fiancé Daga, who I believe is still with Impact as we speak currently. But she was due back for Slammiversary, she was due back for tapings, and she didn't come to the tapings, and then she wanted, allegedly, a pay rate to send video packages into the company to build up for Slammiversary, which they couldn't be agreed on, and there was also fear that she wasn't going to come to Slammiversary. So, with that, Impact took action, and they fired her. Apparently her contract was due for expiration at any time shortly as well. So it probably looked like that Tessa wasn't going to be re-signing. She wasn't willing to drop the belt, which probably is not the way to go if you're going to leave a company. No one wants another Medusa situation where she turns up on another brand with a belt. That's just, it's in poor taste. No one wants to see that in 2020. And yeah, they've had to make their actions and they've had to get rid of their champion. So the championship is vacant. But we had a 5-way and we're currently down to a 3-way because Michael Elgin, he was suspended from Impact Wrestling and now Impact have said he's not coming back. So we're left with 3 people in the match. Now we've got Eddie Edwards, we've got Ace Austin, and we have got Trey. So that is the current way of what we've got here. And not to be cruel to Impact Wrestling, this for me is not a strong enough main event for Slammiversary because, when you say the championship as well, the championship has gone through a rough patch in recent months. Tessa Blanchard only defended the belt, I believe, once, maybe twice during her reign before the pandemic started. Sami Callihan had a very short run with the championship. Brian Cage was injured for the majority of his championship reign. He almost turned up like Brock Lesnar, and it's kind of how it's felt like, really, with Impact Champions of late. So you probably got to go all the way back to last year's Slammiversary, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's when Brian Cage won the belt. You maybe can tell me if I'm wrong, but that's when Johnny Impact dropped it. Johnny Impact had a lengthy reign as champion and a worthy reign as champion, and I think he did well as the champion in Impact. But it's been a long time, and we've had a messy 12 months in that championship reign. A lot of what I felt were main eventers are either not there anymore or have moved on. They've gone to like different areas. Maybe like AEW has signed a lot of people. When you look at Pentagon, for example, Phoenix, these great stars. John Morrison, as we say, Johnny Impact back in WWE. It's a very messy situation. And you even look, we go back even further, Austin Aries, he walked away after becoming, Impact Champion. And when he dropped it, he left the company as well. So it's been a very weird period for the main event scene with the champions leaving the company. And when you look at it, and we say Brian Cage, he's not there in AEW as well. So there's a lot of people that were filling that main event area in Impact. And now it's a very big hole. And it kind of feels the perfect opportunity. Now we've got some of these released WWE talents coming in. They're now promoting that at least one former world champion will be at Slammiversary. They've even put on Bully Ray as a potential, which really surprised me because I'm sure Bully Ray's involved with Ring of Honor. I'm certain with that. Even Velvet Sky's been involved there. Are they trying to tell us that we could get him back? There's been a tease for Aces and Eights to come back as well with D'Lo Brown this past week. I mean, how cool would that be? I mean, we've even had where the Impact flashback of the week for Impact Plus was with when Doc Gallows, formerly Luke Gallows from WWE, was revealed as a member of Aces and Eights. And it does make you wonder if that stable is coming back. So there's multiple different routes of what we could go down. There was a rumour that Team Canada could be coming back. Now, for Eric Young, that could still work, even without Michael Elgin. So there's lots of different variables of how we can do it. So we could still make this a 5-way. But I personally think that there would be best interest in making it a fatal 4-way. I think that would be a good way to do it. And I think that the best way to do it is to bring one of these talents in and put them in the main event. And you could either have someone who's been in the Impact Zone before, or you can take someone completely fresh, completely new, and put them in the championship match on the first night. So there's lots of different variables, there's lots of different options. Rusev would be someone that could come in on the first night, but one of my big criticisms of doing that method, especially when you look at, say, Alberto El Patron, when he came in, Del Rio won the belt the first night, Austin Aries come in, won the belt the first night. I feel it cheapens, it dampens the championship, it almost makes the Impact roster not at that level, and I would prefer someone that's been there before, even if they've not succeeded at their time in WWE. And Rusev perhaps was the biggest name of that batch that left. If you have someone like, arguably, EC3, Mike Kanellis, Eric Young, they've been there before, and particularly when you look at EC3 and Eric Young, they're former world champions. So you could argue and say this kind of makes sense to throw one of them in and put them in that match, and all of a sudden this championship match becomes something almost talk-worthy, again, minus those stars that were, in that main event position have now left the company. And this is no disrespect on Eddie Edwards, on Austin Aries or Trey. I just feel that when you have that extra buzz added into the match, I think that you're certainly then going to feel a lot more excitement. One of the real big plot holes that Impact is going to face now over the next number of weeks is they've already done their tapings. So they need to find a way to build this match with the tapings they've already done. And this may have to form maybe cutting some bits and bobs out of the tapings. Anything obviously Elgin was involved with won't be shown. How much was filmed? We had a match this week with Edwards and Ace Austin. What happens then when you look with Trey? Is he involved in matches going forward? We have to see what they're going to do, as this is a combinational thing. Who attacked Trey? Will we actually find out? Was it meant to be Elgin? Will it end up being someone else? We're not sure how that's going to play out. So there's lots of different variables of how this is going to play out now. But it all leads to who should be the Impact World Champion, which we're going to touch on then for the next question to give that official answer. So also a shout out to TNA Cross the Line podcast. Who do you think walks out of Slammiversary with the Impact World title? So to answer both of you, if we've added in an extra person into that match, I think that person will walk away the champion. I think it adds the biggest buzz, and if it's someone like EC3, for example, that would be my call of what I would do. I think EC3 having the Trouble music coming in would be very exciting, something fun you could do. And I think that's probably the way you'd go down. To touch back on the last question, while it comes into my mind, there's always a way as well that Moose can probably try and intercept, put himself into the match himself as the TNA World Champion, and it can lead to that diversion of the World Champions as well. But I do feel that Moose has probably got a plan already laid out for Slammiversary of what he's going to do. So I would be surprised if they move him into the match. But it would be interesting to see if on the short term, they can get him to do something on video this week saying, well, with it now becoming vacant, I'm the one world champion, and, the champion has been around for a long time, put me in the match and I'll be the main event. And maybe then they can just add something like that through Zoom calling or something like that, just to add that twist in it, just so that the storylines have, the connectability that they should do. But to give a full answer of who I think, if you're going with the people that are in the match, I think Eddie Edwards is the safest pair of hands. He's been world champion before, and he's someone that could carry the company in the short term, in my opinion, as world champion. I don't think he's a long-term world champion, purely because I've not been quite sure of Eddie Edwards' gimmick for the last year or two. I really liked it when he was kind of in that program with Sami Callihan. He lost his mind completely. He was carrying Kenny around everywhere, and that sort of kind of changed. He turned back to babyface, and slowly everything's kind of dissolved in that way. The program of Ace Austin was very good as well, but I do feel that in recent months I've found a bit of a disconnect with Eddie Edwards and his character, and I'd like to see something more of what we were seeing before back into that character going forward. Ace Austin, definitely the future. This guy is a young guy, got a bright way, ahead of him. I think he's got, big things in Impact. He'll probably be in other companies as well at some point during his career as well, and probably will be a future Impact World Champion. He's got Madman Fulton behind him now. They've kind of got that Shawn Michaels, that Diesel kind of relationship going on, which is going to be interesting to see. But both of them are not main event players. Now, you can just kind of put the title on them, but I do feel that maybe it's just too soon. It just doesn't fit for me right now. I'd like to see Ace Austin. He's just come out of the X Division. I want to see him built for another 6 months at least before I'd see him back as a world champion contender. But I think he's got it in him. He just needs a bit more time, in my opinion. Trey, I do feel that this is, a ceiling perhaps a bit too high for him at this moment. He's a very talented wrestler, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see him as an Impact World Champion. His gimmick with the Rascals as well, it's not main event for me at this particular stage. I think it works like from a mid to upper mid card level, but I wouldn't see it as main event. So if you're taking someone's in the match, I'm going to go Eddie Edwards. But I think, as I say, I think the surprise element is the best element to do here. It's not something I would say normally is always the best method to do, is to come and someone win the World Championship on night one. But if it's someone that's been there and done it before, as seen as a saviour of the company, then I think it can work. And I think you could take Eric Young. EC3, though, would be my shout. And I think EC3, at this moment, would be my prediction, just because of the fact that I think that there needs to be that surprise element. Keeping it Impact, and Ty Worldorder's got another question for us now. Would you agree that Impact takes a lot of deserved heat for putting former WWE talent right into the main event, which we just spoke about a minute ago, but that Deonna Purrazzo feels different? Would the build that has been well done, and with a month still to go, by the time we get to Slam, this should be great? And I actually 100% agree with you, because actually when you look at Deonna Purrazzo, she is a standout performer. She's still working on the promos a little bit for me, but she's very young. She's done some great work in Ring of Honor. She's been, I think, underutilized in NXT. She's got a point to prove here, and you can see there's a chip on that shoulder that she's come in here, and everything she's done so far has been done so well, and I think she deserves a lot of credit. It's a match that I am most excited about, and Slammiversary is, if you take the main event away, is looking a strong card. When you look at this match here with Jordynne Grace and Deonna Purrazzo, we've got Willie Mack and we've got Chris Bay as well, so there's some exciting title matches to look forward to, but this one has been put together so well. We've got the technician wrestler, and Deonna Purrazzo, she really reminds me of a Dean Malenko, because she targets that body part, and every move has a purpose, and you don't see a lot of that with wrestlers these days. A lot of people have just a selection of moves they're put together. Deonna Purrazzo, she's got her skill set zoned to one area of the body, and it makes for perfect storytelling in the match, and which has also made perfect storytelling what's built into this rivalry. We've got the powerhouse of Jordynne Grace, and now we're saying with her that she says, well, you can do the technical wrestling you want in the world. What happens when I drop you on your head? It's the perfectly built together match, and it's the match I am most looking forward to right now as we go towards Slammiversary. But Deonna Purrazzo, to go to your point, I 100% agree. I mean, as I said earlier in the video, usually I hate when people come into Impact and they're straight in the main event scene or champion on night one, especially if they come from WWE in some format. It does sort of make their roster look weaker, but with Deonna it feels different. I think because she was underutilized within WWE in that system in NXT. She had a great run in the Mae Young Classic when she was there. As I said, I was really a fan of her work in Ring of Honor, and I was waiting for that breakout moment for her in amongst WWE and NXT, and it never quite materialised. I'm not sure why that was. Now she's here in Impact Wrestling. She's got a point to prove, and there's so much potential there. You see that there's this breakout moment waiting to happen, and I really hope that she gets to fulfil that amongst Impact Wrestling. I had heard recently that there was a potential that, I'm not sure if she's on a contract or appearance-based. I really hope it's contract, because I'd hate to see her go somewhere else. The Knockouts division for me is the place to be. It's the right place for her right now. And she would make an amazing Knockouts champion. At this particular moment, the way that story is running, it's probably not the best way to go down, because I've said in the last question that I could see someone EC3 coming in and actually becoming the world champion. And Deonna Purrazzo has come there as well, and she's just come from WWE. She just had a shorter release clause on her contract. It was only 30 days. So in one way, it doesn't make the company good that all these people just coming from WWE win the championships, but for Deonna, it does feel different, and I agree with you on that. And I want to see that potential fulfilled. But one way or another, it's the match I'm most looking forward to right now. I think that both of these are telling a great story. It's been a great build between these two, and we'll have to wait and see how it leads for, like you say, another month to go. This could really be seen as the women's match of the year when we come to Slammiversary. I really got high hopes for these two. Moving on to WWE, and our next questions come from Noob and Co. Question 1, was Charlotte Flair injured? Who will be the new face of the women's division in WWE? Question 2, will Kairi Sane get involved in the Asuka Sasha Banks feud? And question 3, will more WWE talent take a leave of absence if the coronavirus gets worse in WWE? Well, so I'm going to tackle your last question first, if you don't mind, on this particular spell, because the coronavirus seems to have got worse in WWE. A number of names have been announced as having the coronavirus, Renee Young being one of them, Carla Braxton being another. I believe Adam Pearce is the backstage producer, and Jamie Noble as well, all apparently meant to have suffered with it. There's been reports coming out from multiple different dirt sheets that it could be in the tens. Even as PW Insider said, it could be as much as 24. SmackDown this week definitely had a smaller roster competing on their show, and you do wonder what's going to be like when we get to the next set of tapings, which the dates keep changing, by the way, for the next set of tapings with the Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and 205. It does make you wonder if more talents are not going to be around because they can't be if they've got, have come in contact with the coronavirus, or if you've got people like Kevin Owens who, is now not going to come back because they're concerned with the family. Roman Reigns has been doing it for a long time. Sami Zayn hasn't been there either. And I believe Natalia as well has been told that she shouldn't be around at the moment as well with the television tapings. I don't know if that's in relation to Tyson Kidd, who's also a producer, and her husband, if he's come in contact with it as well. So there's lots of different variables. We're not sure too much. Obviously, the names that have definitely confirmed themselves on Twitter that they have it, they're the ones that we know for sure, but there could be many, many more. And you just, I hate it's a case of, saying we told you so, but I said for a long time when this all started that we should take a break from wrestling, that it wasn't, WrestleMania shouldn't have gone ahead, and how I believed that it was the wrong thing to be continually doing shows. I was grateful that we've got it, and I still have been, and I've tried to always look and take the positives and the best out of everything going on. I just would feel that we could see a different form of WWE programming just while this pandemic is going on. I have even read reports that WWE could be looking to have crowds back by the end of July. And for me, I'm just not a fan of that idea, especially now with this further outbreak. It seems ludicrous to me. I don't feel that it's a good idea at all. When we saw the SmackDown this week and we had the tribute to The Undertaker, I felt that kind of made some sort of sense that we had that sort of thing going on, because it was like a half show that we got. And, yes, you want to build it to a pay-per-view, but then you've got a minimised roster, and it feels, even though it's not perfect, but some superstars probably are happy to still go there, probably still not got the same concerns, maybe not got families, and they make, that's their own prerogative or whatever, and if WWE wants to do this programming, fair enough, but for the ones that are not wanting to be there, they may have to rethink their strategy, and they may have to use different elements to make these shows how they are, instead of giving these long, lengthy half-an-hour matches. So I think more talent will take time off. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the TV side this coming week and perhaps the next couple of weeks or so, certainly with the next set of tapings when they do take place. But yeah, I do think we're going to get some changes. And I think we maybe should have some focus on certain superstars. Maybe we should have more throwbacks to when we see matches like we were before. When we see these 4 arena crowds, to remember what that is like. And I'm sure that that's great for like the USA Network or for Fox if fans are tuning off the off chance and seeing what it's usually like or what it was like. Because it does feel a bit lackluster with what we've currently got in the Performance Centre, however good of the performance of what people do in the ring and storylines, it's only so much without a crowd there. It's not the same, and it's never going to be. So I understand why WWE is desperate to bring fans back, but health and safety first is always the route that I want everyone to go down. And up until now, I felt that WWE, they there was no names coming out with coronavirus, so I kind of felt, well, they've proven that I was wrong. They were right to continue to go ahead. But now that names are coming out, they have got it. I personally would prefer to see some form of break introduced. Maybe even if they do, like I said, the few superstars they've got, so they can get a pay-per-view there and take a break for like a month or something, or 6 weeks, just to see if things can improve, everyone can get better, and people can come back, and maybe the situation will be better, because things change all the time. We don't know from day to day, from week to week, how this virus is going. So, from where I am, for example, things are definitely a lot, not as strict as they were. Of course, we'll still have to wear a mask when we go out. That's still part and parcel of everything going under the new normal. But we still have to keep our social distancing. But from being in complete lockdown, where I, wasn't really even meant to be leaving the house unless it was for food shopping or to go to the doctors, that was the only reason I was allowed out. Now I can go for walks, I can go for runs, I can, whatever there is a purpose, as long as I can maintain the social distancing, and if not, I make sure to do the appropriate stuff, like with hand sanitizer, with wearing the mask, wearing gloves, whatever. I'm able to go and do most of the things that I would like to do if those things are open and available to me. So, I mean, things change week to week, month to month, and I think if WWE took a break now for a month, did some alternative style programming, and maybe focusing on someone like Randy Orton, who's really hot at the moment, you can argue in terms of WWE right now, and you could put a feature of his best moments, maybe his best moments even of this year, just to promote how good Randy Orton is. Other superstars talking about what he's done, the Legend Killer, maybe revisit some of his Legend Killer moments back from back in the mid 2000s, to some of those great matches he had, maybe with the likes of Mick Foley, the Backlash pay-per-view one that springs out to mind immediately. And you have those ideas of things you can do, and maybe you can make a show off of that, and it would be new and it would be fresh, having those different twists and opinions on it, and I think fans would be invested. So, but enough on the coronavirus. You had 2 other questions, and I'll give them to you right now. With Charlotte Flair being gone, it all depends how long she's gone for. I did a video this week on Charlotte Flair and say now is the time to build new talent, because with her not being around, and WWE seemingly wanting to rely on the talent that they've got rather than building new ones, they want the ratings now. It feels like that they're going to go with the tried and tested names. I think Asuka is going to be the face of the Raw Women's division, and I think you're probably looking at Bayley and Sasha Banks collectively with the SmackDown side of things, but also they're on Raw as well. So I expect them to get a lot of TV time at this particular moment. I would like to see newer names brought up the card. SmackDown, always the safest bet as well. Alexa Bliss has been there and done it. She will be around as well, as long with Nikki Cross, who now is involved with the championship match at Extreme Rules. So they're probably the main ones we're going to be seeing going around. It would be nice to see other ones being featured, but I mean, of course, it depends who is going to be showing up at these tapings as well. But we'll have to wait and see with that as it comes along. But I expect Asuka, Bayley and Sasha to carry the load. As for Kairi Sane, and should she be involved with that feud, it would be silly not to. Whether it's linked to a feud that goes on afterwards with the tag team championships, or whether it's done before the pay-per-view, it makes a lot of sense to add the Kabuki Warriors against the Boss and Hug connection at some stage here. Just for me, I think it's a natural progress. More I think about it going into the pay-per-view, it's definitely something you could do 1 week on Raw, and it gives Asuka the opportunity to become a double champion. There's a bit of a buzz around that, and something that they can make happen with that. So I think that would be a great way to do it, and it gives Kairi Sane something to do as well. And probably she maybe have a match with Sasha Banks as well on the lead to it. So I expect her to be around. It all depends on her condition after, obviously, the latest setback with Nia Jax, if she's fit and healthy and good to go. As I say, with always, health and safety must come first. But we'll have to wait and see. But I imagine that Kairi Sane, if she's fit and healthy, it would be a natural progress to involve her in this rivalry with Asuka and Sasha Banks going into the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Well, we mentioned The Undertaker a minute ago, so let's move on to our next question from Dan the Man Williams. Now that Undertaker's retired, do you think they will focus more on the younger talent now? But I'd hope so. I mean, this is the thing. We need to see younger talent pushed up, because this is the only way that WWE has a future in years to come. But it feels that the short term that Vince and Bruce Pritchard are going to push the tried and tested. You can see it already on Raw. We've got the Big Show and Randy Orton. Looks like a feud that we're going to get, which we had Extreme Rules 2013, and I believe as well the Survivor Series 2013 as well. But just goes to show, 7 years later, a feud that is being recycled and redone for us, as because they're two legend, the bigger names, are household names for the casual audience. You look at it and say that those sort of people around. Ric Flair has been around. Christian has been involved. As I mentioned with the women a minute ago, they're going to go with probably more likely the tried and tested in Asuka, Bailey, Sasha have been around for the last 5 years or so. So it feels like those are the main people that are going to be pushed towards the top. Of course, I want to see the people underneath elevated. Time will tell, but it's going to take time to build them, and this is the issue. But I want to see it happen. I know you want to see it happen, and we need to, for the health of the business, we need to make some new names here. I mean, I'm still of belief that these rosters, although you're trying to break them up and have this point where every brand feels important, I want to see people, if you've seen they've got it and they've got the ability to be top of the card, time is now. Let's get these guys up and let's get them moving. Because if you were to look at NXT, for example, I see 3 guys there that could be making a big difference right now on the main. In fact, I could see more, but I'm talking newer talent here. I mean, Keith Lee obviously is the standout. I probably mention his name every week. Why this guy is not on SmackDown already is beyond me, but he's probably maybe likely going to become a double champion in the next couple of weeks. We'll have to wait and see if it's him or Adam Cole. But I mean, Karrion Kross, this guy for me is definitely going to be the future. He's going to be a world champion, and I feel that almost he should be fast-tracked through NXT. I'd even think about it now. I think he could be the perfect opponent for someone. Maybe it's Drew McIntyre. Maybe it's Braun Strowman. But I mean, whatever brand you put him on, he's the perfect guy that could be that top heel main eventer. And you don't want to waste time on that. Of course, there's the likes of Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, but those guys seem to be, staying in NXT for the foreseeable future. But one that's a newer talent that stands out for me is Dexter Lumis. And although I don't feel perhaps the babyface thing would work long term with him, I feel that there's definitely something there with him that stands out. He's different, and if you put him on the main roster, he's going to succeed. He's going to stand out. He's going to, he's got the look. He's got the ring skills. And like I say, he's got a character that's different to everyone and would stand out. He wouldn't just be one of the other guys, one of these guys that can do the flips or do a great 30-minute match. You've got a story with this guy. So, I mean, I see those 3 particular talents and think they could carry the company. While Johnny Gargano is someone that's a great in-ring wrestler, for example, he's someone that if he went to, say, for SmackDown, he'd have a great dream match, mid-card matches for the IC title with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, but I wouldn't see him at the top of the card. Tommaso Ciampa, yeah, he would be closer towards it. I could see that program Randy Orton, possibly Survivor Series time. When you look at Adam Cole, I mean, he could be, but he needs a stable with him for that to work. It doesn't work otherwise. I otherwise would see him in the mid-card at the same likes of what I said with Gargano. So, I mean, but I see there is the future in NXT with those guys and with the girls as well. You look at Rhea Ripley, you look at Io Shirai. The future is bright down there, and you see people that are lost in the shuffle up the top. Should NXT go back to what it was, it needs to go back to that developmental. And developmental is people that's coming in that's not established and is not ready for the big time. Maybe they just need some time under the WWE banner because they have the experience but need to do things the way they do them. And maybe it's for the people that are a bit lost on Raw and SmackDown who need to go back down to NXT to reinvent themselves, like we saw with certain superstars in the early days. Tyson Kidd, the Usos come and did that. I think Prima Nemeko did it as well, and Cesaro as well. And those guys went back up and were better for it. I mean, Cesaro was the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial winner when he come back up, and the Usos went on to become one of the top tag teams that we see today. So it does help people to do that. And you see with Tyler Breeze and Fandango, they've done that. So it would be interesting to see, and I think that's something that NXT maybe needs to look into and WWE needs to look into. I feel that to build the future, you need to look at these rosters and say, right, some of these guys are on the wrong show, and that's how I feel in my opinion. Would it be right to do that? But when we looked for SmackDown this past week, it was Jeff Hardy who was the one that was leading the tribute for The Undertaker. It was the New Day that attacked King Corbin after the match, Braun Strowman. But then we got Matt Riddle at the end. So we got one guy from the future. Maybe he's someone that could be pushed forward in the future as a big name. He certainly had a great start on SmackDown. Arguably, I would say Matt Riddle had, one of the best debuts on SmackDown in many, many years. It's hard to think of another counterpart who had such a great debut. Everything felt so important with Matt Riddle, and they need to do that with future call-ups as well. They need to have when Karrion Kross or Keith Lee, the day they come up, they have to feel as important as this because they become part of the roster and they're not going to fail straight away. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with everything. But with the talent and how it's balanced, it's very interesting. It feels WWE now are looking towards short term, where Paul Heyman was looking towards the long term. The question when Paul Heyman was looking towards the long term was he pushing the right guys? And in my opinion, I think some of them no. I look and I see NXT and I see some top talent there, and it's definitely it gives me a great idea perhaps to do a video at some stage of who I think would be the people that should be carrying the company, and maybe I'll do that at some stage down the line. If there is interest in that from anyone, please let me know in the comments below. But I think they need to start pushing younger talent and they need to build towards the future, because otherwise people like yourself, people like me, we're going to be relying on the old guard. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick of seeing Goldberg and Brock Lesnar having to come back and become champion every February. It just doesn't work for me. I want to see new champions, new stars, and a reason for this company to carry forward into the next 5-10 years with these new ready-made superstars who potentially can make a difference and bring wrestling back to what it was back in times like 10, 15, 20 years ago, where it was so popular and so many casuals were invested and people couldn't wait to get these people on their shows. You look at the top movie stars now like The Rock. People couldn't wait to get him on a talk show. How many people in the current roster are desperate to be brought on for a talk show, for a late night talk show, but whoever it is that they would talk to, O'Brien or, someone like that, Jay Leno, whoever, and they don't have that anymore. James Corden, for example, they don't have the desperate need to bring a WWE superstar in. I want that to change, and the only way to do that is to build new stars and to make them as big and relatable to what people want in the current day. But it's a big hole. It's a big question, and it needs addressing in some format. Is it a creative issue? Is it a talent issue? I kind of feel like I've gone into multiple different subjects talking about your question, but it's definitely something that needs thinking about. Younger talent needs to be pushed going forward. Well, we mentioned NXT, so let's go for Mike. Italian Habs Mike for our next question. As good as NXT is, would you say that since the pandemic that the booking has been lazy at times? One being the Johnny Gargano heel run. Gargano is better as a face. How can we improve the NXT product? Well, I mean, also, we went on to mention in the comments as well when we were having a conversation, you mentioned as well about the tag team division, Rhea, Ripley. So there are multiple different areas, and I agree that NXT has had this bit of lazy booking in places. Now, NXT for me is one of my favourite shows to watch each week. I must admit, I find it amongst the pandemic without fans and stuff, it's one of the easiest shows to watch. SmackDown for me, I find is an easy watch. AEW can be hit and miss depending on the week because they have less advertisements during it. It feels like a full 2-hour show that you're watching almost straight. Raw for me is too long as well, with a 3-hour show, but I tend to, I'm not normally up the US times to watch it till 4 a.m. in the morning my time, so I tend to watch it the following day, so it's about 2 hours, 10 minutes straight. It makes it easier, but sometimes they can be lengthy watches. When you've got SmackDown, which without the adverts is about an hour and a half, NXT an hour and a half, they feel easier watches to watch. When it comes to the booking side of things, NXT, as I said in the last question, has come for a run. It's not been just since the pandemic. It's been going since they moved to USA Network and went from 1 hour to 2 hours. NXT has kind of lost its identity, in my opinion. It's no longer developmental. That's what it was. It was a proving ground for people that had been on the indie scene for many years. They proved themselves. They were moved on to Raw and SmackDown when they were ready. If someone from Raw and SmackDown wasn't quite connecting, they would move back to NXT. They put themselves together, got their new character, got their stuff together, went back, they succeeded. And now it feels like we've got these people that are there for the long term. I mean, Gargano, Ciampa, they've been there for many years. What is there left for them to do? You mentioned Johnny Gargano, so let's touch more on him there. Like I said, if he went up to the main roster, and I hate saying the main roster, I say that every week, but if he wants to go to SmackDown, his ceiling is the mid-card, and that's probably why he's not so desperate to move up. But there would be great matches with Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles to look forward to. But you kind of feel that if he's going to stay in NXT, well, he's done everything there is to do there. Yes, is he better as a face? Arguably, yes. But what is there for him to do that he hasn't done already? I was enjoying his heel run at the early stages, and I still am to a degree. I'm not going to say I'm as unhappy with the heel run so far. I feel that Candice LeRae better as a heel as well. I thought she was so bland as a babyface, in my opinion. I think that this heel turn has done her wonders, added a new element and dynamics to her character, And I think with the two of them, they could really go on to do great things in NXT as a heel couple. I love the idea of the Mr. and Mrs. Champions, the Garganos, ruling NXT. The problem is that since they've turned heel, they've been losing. They've not been winning at all. So you have no need of belief in their characters, and that's what you can argue is maybe not so much lazy booking, but almost Raw and SmackDown booking, where we question it and go, hang on, why are you losing? You've just turned heel. I need something to buy into and to believe with this character, especially with the change, because it feels that so far he's made this change, and what for? Because it's not really helping him. Rhea Ripley, we've spoken our comments thread on Twitter, and I completely agree. I think they dropped the ball with her. I mean, she was so over, and then the pandemic hit. She had the match with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Still to this day now confused why she lost, because it didn't do anything, and she's now really in a sort of struggling lower card program. It feels that she should be chasing Io Shirai, but she's not. And I do feel that actually she needs a heel turn, and it's just really crazy to say that she was so over this time 3-4 months ago, and now it's all really, all that hard work has gone through some questionable booking decisions, lazy booking decisions, as you suggested. I do feel that NXT at times has always done simplistic booking, and now they have to think outside the box because they're going head-to-head with AEW. And I think that is probably part of the problem as well, because lazy booking comes because of the fact that when before NXT did the simplistic booking, simple but effective, now they're having to do things to make us go, wow, oh my God, what was that all about? Because of the fact that they have the competition every Wednesday with AEW, and AEW tries to give you that wow factor every week. And because NXT is losing the ratings, not this week, mind you, but have been, they are trying to find different ways to go outside of the box to make you go, wow. I think some shows week on week with NXT have been amazing. These last couple of weeks, I found the first hour slower than the second. It was just a 1 hour program. I'd turn around and say, wow, that was amazing. But because they have more time to fill, they have to put more on there, and certain things connect and some things don't. You get the lower card talents as well, but it gives them the TV time, which is great for them. So there's lots of different ways and angles to look at it. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the tag team division on our thread as well. I would say, yeah, that needs some work. They have not put the same effort into tag team wrestling as what they've had before. There's such strong tag division for many, many years. It's probably the weakest it's been in the entirety of NXT at this particular point since they started the tag team division 7 or so years ago with the tag team belts. I believe it was like the Neville and Oliver Grey and the Wyatt family fighting over those tag team belts back then. But now it's probably the weakest point since then of tag team wrestling. So hopefully that will change at some stage. Maybe they put some people together. Perhaps I'll have to wait and see. The Undisputed Era have got their own thing going on with Dexter Lumis at the moment, which for me is a positive. I'm really enjoying that program. I'm loving what they're doing with the main event stuff and the double champion stuff. So there is stuff in there that's really good to see. But I suppose when you go from 1 hour to 2, your ideas have to be thrown more frequently on a bit of paper. It's hard to do something different as well. When you look at SmackDown Raw, 7 hours of WWE programming every week. To find something different every week is difficult. And sometimes, yeah, lazy booking does happen, but they just need to iron out the small bits that are, like you said, maybe that they could improve on. But all in all, I'm still okay with the show. I just think NXT has lost its identity, and it needs to get back to what it was, because now it's just a brand, and as it's a brand, it doesn't stand out anymore. And with NXT as well, and you mentioned since the pandemic, one thing that is the most notable thing, like with all shows, is the fans, because they're used to having their shows in the Performance Center. They're used to having those small, intimate crowds who are loud, vocal, and giving everything. And that is a big part of NXT. It always has been. And that's why the last takeover for me wasn't as successful as previous takeovers, and why the current NXT show maybe isn't connecting as well. And it could even argue with some of the lazy booking, because throughout wrestling at the moment, so many storylines have been put off, have had to wait, because of the fact that we're not getting the fans there. So they're putting on a product that they think is watchable, but perhaps they would do more if they knew they had a crowd there to make really go wow. And maybe that is one of the bigger issues here. Maybe they're holding back on stuff. It feels that NXT is holding back less than, say, Raw and SmackDown. Let's not even get started on the Hacker storyline or anything like that. But so many storylines that have been pulled off the table and waiting perhaps for when fans come in. Maybe that's part of the issue. We'll have to wait and see. But I do hope that with the small problems or issues that you might find with NXT that do get ironed out. Because I agree with you, the tag team division, there needs to be some improvement. Rhea Ripley, I think she's going to be part of the Robert Stone brand, and I hate to say that, but maybe she needs a heel turn. Maybe it will work. Who knows? And we'll have to wait and see what goes on with Johnny Gargano. He needs to start winning matches for me. But so far, I've been okay with the heel turn. Is he better as a face? Totally agree. But I think there's something perhaps maybe different for him to do, and that's what I think is the main issue, is trying to keep Gargano relevant, fresh, when he's been on NXT for so many years. Next question coming from Straight Edge Josh. What gimmick can you think of that shouldn't have been changed? I miss Paul Burchill and his pirate gimmick. Me too. I loved that gimmick back in the day. What a great throwback to throw there. Burchill was I'm biased, by the way. I'm English, so of course I was a big Paul Burchill fan and wanted to see him do so much better in his reign in WWE. The pirate gimmick was fun. It was something different, and it's probably around the last of its time when we had those sort of crazy, silly gimmicks like that in WWE before we didn't really get so many of those style characters anymore. But I'm going to give you a sort of an alternative answer for you, and it's someone also that's English, so maybe I'm biased again. But not to give you any bad news, but I would say bad news, Barrett. I absolutely love that gimmick when he was just there, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I just thought he was awesome. I absolutely loved the gimmick, and I really felt if he didn't have such a bad, it felt like he was getting injured quite frequently. If he wasn't so prone to that, I don't see how Wade Barrett would not have been a WWE champion throughout his tenure with the company. And I really feel that the bad news Barrett character was so over. It was so fun, and I really think they could have gone places with it, but unfortunately it never really got the chance to go where it could. But it was so much fun. It tempts me to go back on the network now and go back and look over some of those times, because there was some really entertaining stuff there. But he would be my answer for you, Bad News Barrett, because like I say, I just think that the gimmick was golden. It's just a shame it couldn't progress. The same with, we look back at Burchill. It's a shame they couldn't progress further. But one day we'll get the English World Champion. It will come. We've had an Irish one. We've now got a Scottish one. We just need an English one. Last question this week comes from the controversial one, Jamie Holmes. When Minoru Suzuki inevitably retires, who do you think will take over Suzuki Gun? Great question, that one there. Obviously he's probably getting on a bit now, Suzuki, isn't he? But I must admit, I'm a casual New Japan fan. I'm not someone that watches it all the time. Last I watched, I know they've had a break as well during the pandemic, but the last thing I watched was Wrestle Kingdom. The first shows I'm going to watch will be Dominion when I get back into watching New Japan again. But so I hope not much I've missed out on in the meantime. But I would say that I look at that stable, and I always feel that the next one in line is Zack Sabre Jr. And I would love to see maybe a Sabre Gun stable. Maybe it could get to a point where he's doing so well, because he's winning matches as well when it gets to Wrestle Kingdom and stuff like that. He's elevating himself further and further up the card, where he thinks he's too big for Suzuki and tries to take him out of the stable, and eventually they have the feud and it ends up becoming maybe Sabre Gun instead. That would be the booking method I would go, because like I say, I think Sabre is doing so well in New Japan, and I think that when you have these kind of styles, and not to link everything back to WWE, but you look at Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman with that relationship, before Brock retires, Heyman should turn on him one more time, because if Heyman's going to stay around, he needs a new Paul Heyman guy. So it would make sense for that feud to happen where Brock turned face and faced the new Paul Heyman guy. It would make a lot more sense. So you look at the New Japan standpoint, to actually be kicked out of the stable and have a purpose to fight that stable, and then maybe to try and keep your career, I think would be a great way to go. So that would be my booking method if I was to do it, and if when Suzuki is to retire, how I would go with that stable going forward. But that's all for me this week anyway. Thank you for watching SCW as always, and the Ask SCW Q&A series for us here on YouTube. Make sure to check out Fighter Fest predictions. There'll be more videos coming up in the week as well. Please like, share with a friend as well. You know a friend that likes wrestling, please spread the word. Let's see if we can help the channel grow. We're over 450 subscribers now, on the way to 500. So thank you so much to everyone that's been subscribing and keeping an eye and viewing the videos on the channel as well. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on YouTube.com. Take care.